So this is a story that I've been really uncomfortable sharing for a very long time. I haven't shared it at all in my professional life or publicly, but I feel the need to. And part of that is I want to come from a place of what would it take to get me canceled? And the reason for that is somebody tried to cancel me 6 or 8 weeks ago, and it was a really rough week. And I got past it, but all the hate mail was, obviously discouraging and depressing. And so I wanted to put myself in a place where I could be cancel proof and I could just share the biggest fear I have that people could find out about me. And if I could share that, then I would feel invulnerable because I've shared that and I'm still here. So here's my share. Growing up, my parents always really placed a huge importance on me going to an Ivy League school. It was burnt into me from a very, very young age. Like elementary school, middle school, I had to go to an Ivy, and it was really all prestige. I didn't even know which Ivy. I had no clue which one. And obviously there's a wide variety there. So I gave school my all. I learned my exams. I did well in school. I was top 10 in my class, and I got into Columbia, and I thought I had it made. I was there. I loved being away from home. I loved being in the big city, and I socialized all the time. I was turning in my assignments last minute, but still doing pretty well despite that. Sophomore year, I was even on student government. I was super involved in the extracurriculars. The academics, I did not take full advantage of at all, but I still did okay. I held a party in my room one night, and we got wasted. Jello shots, drank way too much, lost control. We were behaving very foolishly, and we accidentally started a fire in the air shaft of the building. And this was a party I was hosting in my dorm room. So of course, when the fire marshals came, whose door did they knock on? Who did they investigate? They found me. And I was a participant. I'm not going to lie about that. I was there. I wasn't just holding the party. I was participating as well. Long story short, I ended up getting suspended from college for 2 years. They decided to make an example out of me. And obviously what I did was bad. I'm not discounting that, but there were people who did far worse who weren't suspended for quite as long. But I'm not going to argue that. Bottom line is I did something bad. It was foolish. It was reckless. I got suspended from college for 2 years. The rug was completely pulled out from under me. And I had no idea what I was going to do then. Luckily, they said after 2 years, you can come back. But when you went directly from high school to college, it's like you're on a clearly defined path. Everything has a next logical step. Maybe I was going to go into academia and get a PhD. Maybe I was going to go to law school. I wasn't entirely sure, but this was definitely not part of the plan. So the fact that I was kicked out of school for at least two years, I could come back though, but I was like disconnected from all my friends. I wasn't allowed to set foot on campus. When I came back, if I was going to come back, I wasn't allowed to even live in the dorm. So I was socially isolated, and socializing was enormously important to me at that time, more so than even the academics. And so I felt like my life was over. Everybody knew. Some people didn't even want to associate with me because maybe they wanted to run for office, and I was like a bad association of some kind. So that really sucked. And I didn't know what to do with myself. That was actually when I started studying for the LSAT because I had the free time. I also had $20,000 in legal fees my parents had laid out for me that I also had to pay back to them. So that was looming over my head. And obviously I was very lucky to have them supporting me. Had I been under different circumstances, it could have turned out far worse in that case. I ended up simply with an adjournment in contemplation of dismissal, meaning that if I stayed out of trouble for 6 months, my record would be sealed and maybe nobody would ever know about this and I would get to go back to college and such. So obviously I stayed out of trouble. I kept my nose clean for those 6 months and beyond. And I ended up going back to college and finishing off my remaining 2 years in 1 year because I just wanted to get back to the real world. But those 2 years were absolute hell for me, just simply feeling aimless and not knowing what I was going to do with myself during that period, feeling like I had all that wasted time. So I studied for the LSAT, took it, started teaching it. As you know, I ended up getting a 175, and I ended up not even going to law school after all that. And that's the funny thing. I ended up having this very roundabout path where maybe I was going to be on a clear route to law school or academia or something of that nature, but I ended up tutoring and loving that. And when I came back to school for that final year, I took tons of classes loaded up and still focused on tutoring. And so when it came time to graduate, I was like, well, I love tutoring. I'll just keep doing that. And then I built the blog and later the YouTube channel and the podcast and such. And that was my path. And so that's my story. That's really what I had to share. I'm not going to reflect on it or try to explain. It is what it is. Thanks for tuning into the show. Please subscribe if you haven't done so already to be notified of new episodes as I release them. And feel free to reach out if you need anything at all as you move forward with your prep. I'm happy to help however I can. In the meantime, I wish you all the best and take care.